Hello, everyone. How's everyone this evening? Center myself here. Morgan, Yola, Paige, Jaleel, Claire, Christy, welcome, welcome. Oh, what do you mean almost done? Almost done fellowship, sure, but so Lothlorien. This was I can't remember who said it in Discord, but this was a what do you call it? Landscape description heavy chapter that didn't feel quite like it dragged on in the way that some of them can. Like Three's Company dragged on a little bit with the landscape description, and that's, in fairness, not much had happened yet in the story at that point, so there was less to think about. But I don't know. I thought Lothlorien was beautiful. I enjoyed it. Yeah, and yes, Morgan, yeah, more humor coming in so far. I mean, the occasional downbeat, losing a wizard here and there, but yeah, I mean, lighter tone here and there. I feel like that's probably it. Like there's been some heavy stuff happen, so Tolkien appropriately punctuated it with some humor, which has been good. Yeah. Let's hop into it. Let's talk first about one of Jesse's questions, Jesse's last question actually, which was about the last paragraph of the chapter. So we're skipping well ahead, but I want to touch on it without being spoilery, but it was a good question. So basically, Jesse just asked, "What's going on with the last paragraph? What does it mean?" And some of that is spoilery, but some of it isn't necessarily. And the part that I want to talk about most is not really. So here, this is Aragorn. "Here is the heart of elfendom on earth," he said. And whenever I think of Lothlorien, that's what I think of, the heart of elfendom on earth. "And here my heart dwells, unless there be a light. And here my heart dwells ever, unless there be a light beyond the dark roads that we still must tread, you and I. Come with me." And taking Frodo's hand in his, he left the hill of Caran Amroth and came there never again as living man. So there's a lot there. So I assume Jesse's questions were not specific to the heart of elfendom on earth. That's clear enough from the chapter what that means. But here my heart dwells ever, unless there be a light beyond the dark roads that we still must tread, you and I. So here my heart dwells ever. So that's okay. So that's spoilery to Appendix A, and the Tale of Aragorn and Arwen. So that we'll leave that for now, other than to say we'll get to that, in a year or so. But unless there is a light beyond the dark roads that we still must tread, you and I. It's interesting to me that he says you and I, because he intends to leave Frodo at whatever the appropriate waypoint is, where he will continue on to Minas Tirith and Frodo will go his way with the ring. So those are separate paths that are intended to be trod. Why? I guess the answer is that both of their quests must be successful for him to return there. Or for him to have his heart dwell somewhere else, would be a better way to say that. So a light beyond the dark roads that we still must tread, you and I. So if there is a light at the end of Frodo's road and a light at the end of Aragorn's road, then they have been successful, and the enemy has been overthrown. and his heart can dwell somewhere else, presumably in Gondor. Until then, his heart dwells in Caer Amroth. And we'll get to why eventually. He left the hill of Caer Amroth. This is the part that, isn't spoilery, but is very interesting to me, and I want to give credit to Cece. Is Cece here tonight? Crazy Singer Girl. Haven't seen there. But her answer I thought was great. He left the hill of Caer Amroth and came there never again as living man. What does that mean? Because he came there never again is sufficient. He came there never again as living man. The qualifier as living man suggests that he came there in some other way other than as living man. And I always read that to mean, well, okay, that must mean in some way that he came there not as a dead man, but as a spirit, as a ghost, as whatever, right? After his life. Which doesn't jive with Tolkien's mythology, with his concept of where human souls go. The elves know not whither, but they don't just hang around visiting old haunts. Yeah, see, I got it. That didn't work for me. So I had my eyes open, and I love the answer that Cece gave, which was that he returned there in his dreams. He went back there mentally. He cast his mind there. He dreamt of being there during his life. And that works perfectly for me. He came there never again as living man, or as waking man, or as physical man, but he came there often in his thoughts, would be how I would read that. And I love that as a reading. And that works perfectly for me. So, unless and until I get a better answer, which I'm not sure is out there, that's the way I'm taking that to read. And so that's my full answer. So nice work, Cece. I like that one. What did... it was a tight race on the Discord as to what people wanted to look at more closely, but ultimately it came down to Durin's Stone and the Mirror. And I think that that also led into, or was winked at by one of Jesse's questions, which I will get back here. So I'm still confused by the mirror thing. As far as I understand, it is some kind of magical lake that has historical significance to the dwarves, but I still don't understand why Balin would go there by himself, and presumably at night, or at least on an overcast day, making himself an easy target for the orcs. It's a good question. So, and I hadn't even really thought about it too. It must have been either at night or at least on a very overcast day for the orcs to be out prowling, right? And it's right to say it must have real significance to Balin for him to go there alone when the area is not safe and secure, right? So let's talk about the dwarves, and we'll talk about, dwarfs. I keep saying dwarves, it's not right. In Tolkien, dwarfs. No, which is it? I'm getting it wrong. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? And Tolkien didn't like that. Dwarves. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so Durin. In the mythology, Tolkien's mythology of the dwarves, there were 7 fathers of the dwarves that were created by Aule. They were awoken, put back to sleep, the whole big thing. But of the 7, the most renowned was Durin, and he was the father of the Longbeards, is what they ended up being called, Durin's folk. So that's the family of the dwarves, the clan of the dwarves, from which Thorin of the Hobbit was sired. So Durin the Deathless, as he was called, because he had a very long life. He was the subject of course, Gimli's poem or song in the previous chapter, he is obviously extremely renowned by the dwarves. So, that's the starting point. Is anything related to Durin would have great significance. The background of Mirror is that, according to Gimli's song, Durin came to the mirror, looked in it, saw a crown of stars appear on his head, presumably on his head, I assume, or just saw a crown in there made of stars, and took that as a sign to found Caelid or Moria at that spot, or in those mountains, which he did. And it became the great, dwarvish city that was sung about and was Caelid before the Balrog. So, what does that mean to Balin? Balin has returned to Moria to become Lord of Moria in taking it over again, in reclaiming it for Durin's folk. He is, in this way, the new Durin, right? I'm sure he wouldn't say that in such a, I'm sure that would be sacrilegious kind of in a way to them, but, that he is in that role, if not explicitly. What I'm wondering is, did he go to look in the mirror in hopes of seeing a crown, in hopes of seeing a sign that this is the right thing to do, that he is refounding this city and will have, divine protection on it or help? And what happens? He gets killed. The other dwarves don't clearly take that as a sign. They stay. They don't read anything into that. You understand why. I mean, the delves have been going on okay, I guess, at that point. But they carry on, and we know what happens to them. What I would like to know, and I'll read the passage, but I'd like to know what Sam and Frodo saw. They stooped over the dark water. At first they could see nothing. Then slowly they saw the forms of the encircling mountains mirrored in a profound blue, and the peaks were like plumes of white flame above them. Beyond them there was a space of sky. Beyond there was a space of sky. There, like jewels sunk in the deep, shone glinting stars, though sunlight was in the sky above. Of their own stooping forms no shadow could be seen. And then another paragraph later, what did you see? Said Pippin to Sam, but Sam was too deep in thought to answer. What did Sam see? Was it just exclusively what was recorded there, or what is Sam deep in thought about, I guess, is the more specific question that I want to ask. Did he receive a sign from that, the same way Durin did? Or did he interpret something that he saw as a sign? So we have the description there. It doesn't sound like they saw a crown. Durin explicitly saw a crown of stars. They saw stars, but not formed into a crown. Or did they? Is this recording Frodo's journey of his or journal rather of his journey? But why was Sam silent? I don't have a good answer. There is no answer in the text. But I do kind of wonder what Sam saw. And those are my thoughts about the mirror. Oh, and Durin's stone, that's where he erected that. He erected that stone because he's at that spot, because that's where he saw the sign. Just catching up on the chat. Oh yeah, Autumn got there ahead of my explanation of Cece's explanation that he dreams of it. Yeah, that's very good. Sorry, Paige, can you clarify that? Paige says kind of similar to how Strider wanted to go up to Weathertop, or at least the theory we came up with. I wasn't paying attention to the chat, so I'm not sure exactly what that was in response to or when that came up. Is the circle of peaks like a crown? Maddie says. So let me go back. The forms of encircling mountains, the peaks were like plumes of white flame above them. Now, I thought, and I'm going to look back because I may be wrong, but I thought it was supposed to be the crown was explicitly the stars, was it not? This was in A Journey in the Dark. Okay. So from Gimli's chant. He stooped and looked in Mirror and saw a crown of stars appear, as gems upon a silver thread above the shadow of his head. Interesting, I hadn't noticed that before. The shadow of his head. And yet, of their own stooping forms, no shadow could be seen. So Durin cast a shadow into Mirror, but they do not. That's interesting. I don't know what to make of that. Surely if it's a question of worthiness or anything like that, you know, these are three worthy individuals. Are they as great as Durin? I mean, in many ways greater eventually, but Durin was pretty great. But I can't think it's a worthiness question. Why would Durin's shadow appear and he see a crown? Well, I think it has to be related to the crown then, right? I think that he can, because maybe they don't see the crown above their heads because they can't see their heads, right? If they could see their heads, maybe the stars do look like a crown around them, but without a shadow being cast that they can see, they don't see anything. They don't see it as a crown, unless Sam does. Oh, I see. Paige says, for the reason why Balin went to Mirror. Right, so Strider wanted to go to Weathertop because he was setting out on his journey of, basically his war against the enemy, his last confrontation against the enemy, and Weathertop is where Elendil and Gil-galad met to start their last alliance, or to march on the last alliance. So he's kind of recapitulating their actions there. Kind of starts off his journey. It's symbolic, right? So yes, I think in a way it is similar. Balin's want to go to Mirror. And like, this is not when they get there, right? I mean, for all we know, he could go there weekly, and this time he got unlucky. But I wonder why he goes alone. Yeah, I do agree. It's probably symbolic. There's a mythic quality to it. I think there has to be. Christy asks, does the mirror only work for dwarves? So I guess that's where the pronouns are getting me. So all three, Gimli, Frodo, and Sam, they stooped over the dark water. They could see nothing. Of their own stooping forms, no shadow could be seen. I read that as all three of them. So unless we have some reason to believe that Gimli can see something that they can't, which I realize is what I'm postulating about Sam without any evidence, but I don't know that we can say it only works for dwarves. Yes, that's the other thing, Yola. Thank you for reminding me. Gimli said, "There lies the crown of Durin till he wakes." So do dwarves believe that after death they wake up rather than go to some kind of heaven? Till he wakes. That presupposes that he's sleeping. Durin is called the Deathless. They believe that he was reincarnated 6 times. So there were 7 Durins that were his descendants. That they called all of them Durin, on the understanding that each one was Durin reincarnated. That is the belief among the dwarves. Durin the Deathless, so he sleeps. We don't know what dwarves believe about their afterlife. The Silmarillion tells us what it is, or at least suggests it to us, but that's not here, and I don't want to bring that in. Do dwarves believe that after death they wake up rather than go to some kind of heaven? Maybe so what would fit is that they die or sleep until the end of the world, at which time they wake up. At which time Durin would get his crown back, I guess. But there lies the crown of Durin till he wakes. So the crown does not lie there, or the crown is not there now, in a way. It lies there, but it is not active there. It cannot be raised there. Maybe that's why they can't see the crown of stars. But once Durin wakes, he will. This is a tricky one, but I like this. This is good. Okay. Was there anything else? Any other questions about the mirror? The other thing I wanted to know at the end of that sort of passage, so it was just before they get there. So Gimli's talking about the mirror. There lies the mirror, deep Kelezarum, said Gimli sadly. I remember that he said, he being Gandalf, may you have joy of that sight, but we cannot linger there. Now long shall I journey ere I have joy again. It is I that must hasten away, and he that must remain. What grabbed me about this was Gimli's very quick attachment to Gandalf. I think that the journey through Moria together, Gimli being quick to back him about going through the mines, and what was the line? Good Gimli, you give me hope, or you give me cheer, or something like that, when they were debating where to go. And then they went forward together, and they counseled and debated at the turns and the crossways and whatnot. Gimli didn't know Gandalf going into this. We can, I think, pretty safely assume. Well, let me walk that back. Would Gandalf have been a stranger to Erebor? No. I don't think we have any reason to believe that they were close before this. I guess I'll leave it that way. And now long shall I journey ere I have joy again. It's sad to lose a party member, of course. And they've been going for weeks, so they would have gotten close. Long shall I journey ere I have joy again. I don't know, that just struck me as pretty, we're all sad about Gandalf falling. But it was surprising that Gimli was so sad. I just think that they bonded over Moria. And I think that's significant. Yeah, exactly. Christy was there before me. They were leading the party through Moria together. Lots of bonding time, I guess. Yeah, I think that's where I land on that. That makes sense to me. But I think that's fun. Okay. What did we want to talk about? Let's talk about the Timeless Land. Yeah, Paige, I agree. Plus, Gandalf did have a decent knowledge of the mines that might have impressed Gimli. I agree, absolutely. And the fact that Gandalf was pushing to, not pushing, but advocating going through Moria at all. I think that would have gained him some points with Gimli. And yeah, but yeah, and the fact that he could act as a sort of guide to Gimli as a secondary guide, yeah, I think he would have really appreciated that. Okay. Let's talk about near the end when they get to Karen Amroth. So we talk about landscape descriptions, and this is rife with it. But there are some interesting turns of phrase here. And it took me a long time to read through it closely enough to really feel like I understood. And even now, I'm not sure I do exactly. But the feeling that Frodo has here. I mean, I'm not sure that we're supposed to understand it, right? We have not experienced anything like this. So to me, the key passage here, though he walked and breathed, and about him living leaves and flowers were stirred by the same cool wind as fanned his face, Frodo felt that he was in a timeless land that did not fade or change or fall into forgetfulness. When he had gone and passed again into the outer world, still Frodo the wanderer from the Shire would walk there, upon the grass, among Elenor and Nifredil in fair Lothlorien. So, two key sentences there, or fragments. A timeless land that did not fade or change or fall into forgetfulness. That is explained. I think that is specifically what is explained by Haldir. You feel the power of the Lady of the Galadhrim. I think that is specifically what the power of the Lady of the Galadhrim is, and something else of hers that we'll get to. It's the timelessness. The time will become a factor when they're leaving, right? They're reckoning of time as they leave. I think that it's clear that it's not just the beauty of the place, it's not just the feeling of it, it's the changelessness. Is that even approximately a word? I'm going to use it anyway. And the way that again, we're not supposed to really understand this, but the best sentence that I can get to understand it was, a light was upon it for which his language had no name. What lights would his language have name for? Winter haze, bright sunshine, evening gloaming. This is different than that. It's a qualitatively different light that is upon this land. And it bends the mind to try to understand that. But in the way that it throws all of the shapes of the objects and the trees and everything into very sharp relief, that is the power of the Lady of the Galadhrim. Talking myself in circles here, but I don't really... Yes, exactly. Yes. So Maddie says there was a passage. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't find it, but it seemed to him that he had stepped over a bridge of time into a corner of the elder days and was now walking in a world that was no more. Yes, absolutely. And I had already forgotten that one almost, but yes. So the mention of time, the elder days, that is the feeling that we are supposed to understand or not understand. Paige asks, do the woods have seasons, or if it's always spring or summer, that make it more timeless? No, that's the paradox, I think. So let's work through that. So I think it is winter. And I think that winter is different there. Haldir says, here bloom the winter flowers in the unfading grass. The yellow Eleanor and the pale Nifredil. So we know that in Lothlorien, the seasons change. I mean, going into it, Legolas was talking about, oh, I wish I were here in spring. And I think Aragorn was talking about the Malorn tree leaves don't fall. They turn golden in the fall. They don't fall until the spring, I think. Something like that. But there are seasons, I think it seems clear. Even in Caern Amroth, there are winter flowers. And then Frodo's description of it. In winter here, no heart could mourn for summer or for spring. So I think that my understanding of that is that the winter there, which is different than its spring and summer, is no less beautiful than the spring and summer there. That would be my read of it. What do you think of that? Yes, Yola isn't remembering the same thing as me. Some of the trees shed their leaves. So there are seasons. I do think there are seasons. They're just... Yeah, having seasons but being timeless is a paradox. Yeah, walking into a picture or into a bubble, how similar but different it is, Christy. Yeah. Maddie, the leaves don't lose their leaves in autumn, they just turn golden. But that I thought there was an until to that. Yes, here it is. Okay, Legolas said it. It wasn't Aragorn. For in the autumn their leaves fall not, but turn to gold. Not till the spring comes, and the new green opens, do they fall. And then the boughs are laden with yellow flowers, and the floor of the wood is golden, and golden is the roof, and its pillars are of silver, for the bark of the trees is smooth and gray. So they turn to gold in the fall. They stay on all winter, and then when the new green opens in the spring, then the golden leaves fall. Yeah. That's clear. I like that. It seems like it's more ageless than timeless. Yes. Yeah. Stepping into the elder days. Right, yeah. So as Christy says, so there's no time at which the leaves are bare or the trees are bare and they're just bare sticks, which is why it is no less beautiful in the winter than it is in spring or summer. Good. Okay. I think we're getting more of a grasp of it. That's good. Briefly, what did you think? I'll ask the question. I'll move on to a couple of the last notes that I had as well. What did you think of Boromir's reluctance to enter Lothlorien? Is there no other way, he said. What other fairer way would you desire, said Aragorn. A plain road, though it led through a hedge of swords, said Boromir. And now we must enter the Golden Wood, you say, but of that perilous land we have heard in Gondor, and it is said that few come out who once go in, and of that none have escaped unscathed. And so this is... Boromir gets rebuked by Aragorn here, pretty firmly. We saw in the council, Boromir does not he's made it clear he does not care for the lore, the state of lore in Gondor to be called to the carpet, right? Like he's pretty defensive of his city, and Aragorn would know that. And Aragorn is probably also pretty defensive of Gondor in his own way. Say not unscathed, but if you say unchanged, then maybe you will speak the truth, said Aragorn. But lore wanes in Gondor, Boromir, if in the city of those who once were wise they now speak evil of Lothlorien. That's pretty harsh. Those who once were wise. So if you speak evil of Lothlorien, you are a fool. You were once wise, or in any case, no longer wise. There is no wisdom in speaking ill of Lothlorien. He's pretty firm about this, and I think it's a pretty significant rebuke. Not necessarily of Boromir personally, but of the state of lore of Gondor. Great question. Kelly Howard asks, when Aragorn says only evil should fear it, is this supposed to make us question Boromir, since he's hesitant? Then lead on, said Boromir, but it is perilous. Perilous indeed, said Aragorn, fair and perilous, but only evil need fear it, or those who bring some evil with them. Follow me. I think that there are two ways we could understand this. He's speaking to Boromir. The plainest way to understand that is him saying to Boromir, if you fear... No, there are two ways he could be speaking to Boromir. He could be saying, you should be afraid if you're bringing evil in. If you are evil, or if you're bringing some evil, maybe evil intentions or whatnot, into Lothlorien, then you're right to fear it. The other way he could be understood is by saying, you have nothing to worry about, Boromir. You're not evil. You're not bringing any evil in. You have nothing to fear. Don't worry. It's all good, my man. The other way to understand this, they as a company are bringing some evil with them, are they not? Maybe the greatest evil, right? They as a company, as a group, or Frodo in specific, are bringing in the ring. Do they have cause to fear? I don't think that's his implication, but should we read it that way, or could we read it that way? I think we might, right? Yep, Claire. Yeah, Maddie and Claire were right there already. They are bringing evil with them. Shouldn't Frodo be bothered by this since he's technically bringing evil with them? Yes, exactly. So, and I think of Frodo when I read this. I wonder what he hears when Aragorn says that. Whether I don't think it's intended for him, clearly, but Aragorn says it, and if Frodo can hear it, I do wonder what he thinks. Yeah, well, Yola asks, it was a hard time for Aragorn. He just lost a friend. Now he hears not very nice things about a land he loves so much. Maybe he's just too tired to be nicer. Aragorn might be a little touchy here. I couldn't blame him for that, right? I don't think he has the patience to suffer fools here. And I think that he considers anything in this line of discussion foolish. And to his point, I mean, he lays out, no, we don't have any other path. This is the way. Yeah, Laura, it's a fair question. That's some great evil, the ring, but perhaps the ring is not evil when it is not being used, sort of idle. I think that it's possible to read that, to read what he's saying, to not include the ring because Frodo is not bringing evil into Lothlorien with the intent of evil. I think I have the phrase, the ring is altogether evil, caught in my mind. I don't think of the ring as inert. Was that in the Council of Elrond? I feel like Gandalf said that. The ring is altogether evil. And I think we have to be guided by that. So I'm not sure that it's idle ever. Or at least Gandalf also describes the ring as sleeping at one point, I think. Talking myself out of the absolute position there. I'm still resistant to the idea that the ring itself is not evil. I still think that on the plain meaning of it, they are bringing evil into Lothlorien. Yeah. Okay. What else did I want to say? Very little. I had a couple more notes, but I'll wrap up there. One thing I wanted to talk about at the very beginning. Aragorn. Did I not say to you, if you pass the doors of Moria, beware? Alas that I spoke true. What hope have we without you? He turned to the company. We must do without hope. So, this is the deep cut here of Aragorn's life, but Aragorn was named by the elves, I think, or was it his mother name? In any case, among the many names Aragorn has, as a child, he is called Estel. Estel in Elvish, I think, unless it's Númenórean, but I think in Quenya, means hope. There are two kinds of hope in Quenya, I think, whatever the language is. There's Estel and Amdir. My understanding of the two is Estel is kind of like the high hope, the belief that that there is good and order and everything will be guided by good, and that it's sort of a transcendent hope, right? It is a hope based in a higher purpose, in predestination in a way, but it's I hesitate to say faith in God, but that is kind of the, if you say that, you're kind of getting closer to it. That's not how it's defined in Tolkien, but faith is I think a good analog. Amdir is the other word for hope. That's kind of like, yeah, I hope Thursday's got nice weather, or I hope my team wins. It's a more abstract hope. It's a wish. It's not grounded in anything. And I think that what he's saying, he uses hope twice. And I think that it's important. The reason why I'm giving that background is because I don't think that Aragorn is giving up Estel here. I think he's giving up Amdir, the kind of wishy-washy hope. What hope have we without you? He turned to the company. We must do without hope. At least we may yet be avenged. So if he truly believed there was no way forward, there is no, regardless of what the plan of the Almighty is, or predestination, or what have you, there's no way that this can be accomplished. I don't think he would say we must do without hope. I think he's saying we must do without Amdir. We must do without. I could see this working out. I hope my team wins, sort of thing. Like, yeah, it's a 60-40 shot, but I hope we do well. Trust, Yola, is a good word for Estel, another analog for it, or translation. Yeah. Yes, Yola, exactly. They always have hope when Aragorn is with them. Yes, they always have Estel. There are a few passages like that where it's kind of winked at. His name is winked at. I haven't called them out because of that long and convoluted explanation that I didn't give very well. but that one really called to me. The other thing on that page. Okay, does anyone remember what the tip of Carothros looked like? What color was it? Don't all answer red at once, right? What color is it now? Northward the dale ran up into a glen of shadows between two great arms of the mountains, above which 3 white peaks were shining. Celebdil, Fenuithal, Carothros, the mountains of Moria. And then Gimli later on. There he stands, smiling in the sun. He shook his fist at the furthest of the snow-capped peaks and turned away. Carothros isn't Redhorn anymore. That red-tipped mountain is such a warning, right? It's so angry and violent and defensive. And now that they're on the other side of it and they're not challenging it anymore, now is the first time when it's not red. It's a white snow-capped mountain, which is interesting. Yeah. Yes, Christy, so the influence is gone. Yeah, I don't think it's being menacing anymore. There it stands smiling in the sun, smiling in white, right? Not red. Yes. Yes. Okay. Did anyone have anything else? That was all I had from that chapter. And I am thinking about being so the next 2 chapters, The Mirror of Galadriel and Farewell to Lorien, are both fairly short, and I'm very excited to get to the end of the Fellowship. So I'm talking myself into doing the next 2 chapters in a week. Because it's really just over 30 pages. That's about the length of Lothlorien, maybe a couple pages more. So unless there are no objections, just look at my schedule. I'm sure I can do that. I want to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Let's do 2 chapters this week. I'll update the about page on the Discord chat. But next Thursday, let's talk about the next 2. And Kelly asks, is Gollum with the orcs or is he avoiding them too? Oh, Castlesville. What is your name on Discord? I feel like I knew that at one point. I'm sorry, I don't. Glad you caught the end here. Is Gollum with the orcs or is he avoiding them too? I don't think he's with the orcs. Well, we know later that he isn't, so spoiler. But no, he is avoiding them. The mirror part. Yeah, so I'm torn a little bit because I feel like I want to spend some real time on the Mirror of Galadriel. But if I'm honest, I don't think I want to spend a lot of time on Farewell to Lorien. I just don't remember there being a lot there that I shouldn't say that until I've read it again. We'll see. Okay, let's wrap it there. We'll do a big full session next Thursday. And thanks everyone for joining. Have a good night.